that again. It sounds so good. Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to Monday Night Politics, sponsored by the Dallas Examiner. I'm Christy Thomas, the coordinator for tonight's event. Tonight, I want to give the candidates and the audience a few housekeeping guidelines to ensure that the forum moves smoothly so we can provide a space that is safe and conducive to learn about each candidate and their platform. I will start with the candidates. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes for your opening and closing statement and 2 minutes to answer questions from the moderator and the audience. Our guest timekeeper tonight is Mr. Anthony Marshall. Please help me welcome him. He had a birthday this month, so let's give him a big round of applause. He will provide a placard to inform you of the time you have left to answer questions given. Candidates, this time should be spent talking about how you will implement your plan and goals for the seat if you are elected. Your time should not be spent talking about your opponent and their shortfalls or issues. Please remain respectful throughout the forum and respect the space that has been donated to us for the purpose of educating our community on political candidates. Now for the audience. We are so thankful for your presence tonight. We ask that you formulate your question where it pertains to all of the candidates. You will be allowed 1 minute to ask your question, and only one question can be asked to allow time for others in the audience to ask the question. Again, please be respectful to prevent any interruptions and that could cause us to run out of time and not hear from each candidate listed to speak tonight. Any member of the audience should line up to my right, and you will be provided a microphone so that everyone can hear your question being asked. I want to thank you in advance for your cooperation and for your interest in being more informed about candidates running for office in your community. The Dallas Examiner has been presenting Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidate, for over 15 years prior to major elections. I want to stress that all candidates are invited through email invitation. These candidates are pulled from the official ballot from the city. The Dallas Examiner does not endorse candidates. We could not do this alone. Our sponsors are nonprofit organizations, too many to name. All Black sororities and fraternities, the NAACP chapters, the Links, and the African American Museum. Our moderator tonight is Kristen O'Neill. She is very familiar with city government and our community. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration and a Master's in Organizations and Strategy from the University of Texas at Dallas. She is a lead consultant and works with Texas Association of African American Chamber of Commerce, where she is committed to the community and economic empowerment. Lastly, please silence your phone, and video recording is prohibited for this event. Now, when I say video recording is prohibited, that means if they're on the stage or off the stage. If they're inside this building, period, it is off limits. Please do not videotape any candidates. It's very disrespectful. Okay, on behalf of Molly Bell and the Dallas Examiner, we would like to thank you again for attending Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidate. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, that was really, y'all good tonight. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, again, welcome to Monday Night Politics. My name is Kristen O'Neill, and I'm so glad to see you all here this evening as we have a very, very special night of information that I look forward to hearing from our candidates tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started, and so I'm going to invite the candidates for trustees for DISD District 4 to go ahead and head on stage. Ms. White, Ms. Garcia, y'all give them a hand as they come to the stage. Thank you both for being with us tonight. We are going to start with your opening statements. Please, you have 2 minutes. And in that opening statement, include your some of your as you introduce yourself, your priority agendas, policies, etc. And Ms. White has been coming. I will start with you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille White. I am the current trustee for DISD District 4. For those of you who may not know me, and for some of you who already know me, good evening to you. I am running for re-election for my seat because I feel that there is more work that needs to be done. District 4 covers Seagoville, Pleasant Grove, and also Box Springs. There has been a lot that has not been going on in my district. And that is the reason that I ran in the first place for this seat. This is not my first time running for this seat, but since I have been in this seat, I have gotten more done, I feel, on my watch than anyone else has done. There was money that I have gotten recovered from the 2015 bond that didn't hit our district, that is going to hit our district now. There's all type of development and building that is going on in District 4. Just a little bit about myself and for the next 60 seconds. I do have a degree. I have a degree, a bachelor's degree that I received from what you know now is DeVry University. I have a master's degree in political science from the great University of Texas at Arlington. And I've been in Pleasant Grove for a long time. I am a precinct chair, so that's why a lot of people that's in this audience that may be elected or precinct chairs, I know most of you who you are. We do have some new chairs that have come on board, but once again, my name is Camille White, and the reason that I am running is to make sure that District 4 continues to get what we need, and also for student attainment. Because the most important thing is we want our students educated, and so that they have a great education, and if they want to go off to college, they can. If they don't desire to go to college, they can get certifications and do whatever they need to do to be good, productive citizens in our communities. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Prisma Garcia. For me, this race symbolizes that a student that graduated from H. Grady Spruce can be a leader and decision maker in the district. I grew up in Pleasant Grove, was born and raised in the area in District 4 and District 9. I attended H. Grady Spruce, E.B. Comstock, and W.A. Dallaire. I left to go to college. I went to the University of Notre Dame. And for me, that was a huge challenge because ultimately no one was telling me what options I had during that time. And during that time, Spruce High School went through a rebuilding. I share that because as a first-generation college student, a daughter of immigrants, I represent so many of our students in our district. And so I am fully committed to helping kids be in pre-K, getting them what they need so that they actually attend school, because we have a problem in our high schools in particular, but across the district, that we have chronic absenteeism. And of course, we need to focus on what they're going to do for the rest of their lives, because if they're not going to college, we need to get them prepared for what's next after high school. And of course, we need a safe and nurturing learning environment. I established one of the first, or the first, mental health clinics in the zip code 75217. And that is one of my greatest accomplishments, because ultimately, if we don't step up and do what's right for our communities, then we won't have thriving communities in the future. And actually, all of us suffer. So I'll stop there because 15 seconds remain.
Ms. Garcia, you can actually remain at the mic. I'll let you answer our first question. Thank you so much for that. Community, parent involvement, community involvement. What is your goal and agenda to ensure that parents and the community are involved throughout your routine?
So I believe that the number one focus of these positions, obviously they serve a role. And so there's the vision, the goals, the evaluation of the superintendent. But all of that can really lead to great work at the campus level. In terms of parent engagement, I've worked with several parent engagement organizations in the past, and I know that you can't have a successful school community without parents. So my goal is to provide more vehicles for that to happen. Because let me tell you something, parents, sometimes we say they don't want to engage, but it's because they simply do not know how. And so we have to, at the top, trickle that down into the school level where they can see pathways of how to get involved. And so if you don't have that at the top, then ultimately all of that is lost because they're busy parents. I mean, they have multiple jobs, they may have transportation issues, housing insecurity, and so we need to address and look at the full picture of what our parents are going through and provide that collaboration.
Same question as well.
Not only have I been living by an example, when Spruce was reconstituted, I was there. I went to the courthouse. I fought against it. We weren't successful. Judge Tina Yu was also a part of it when we went to court. I've always advocated for parents. I have been a member of PTA, and I was on Dallas Council of PTAs. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. I was trained to be a trainer. I have had community meetings since I have been in this seat. I have reached out to parents. I want parents back in the schools. I want our PTAs to be functioning. If you have a PTA or a PTO, I want it to be functioning. Because when parents get training as a PTA member, when they leave, they can go out and get a job from the skill sets that they learn. Because from setting up a 501c3, which PTAs have to do since 9/11, that's the training that we get. Not only have I done that, I've definitely been reaching out, and I understand that parents are busy. But you know what? When it comes to your child, people find time to do things that are really important to them. When it comes to your child, you will do what is needed to do. That's what I did for my child. I made sure that I was at those PTA meetings. I made sure that when they had those baseball games, they had food to eat after the game. So there is so much work that is still needed to be done. And don't get me wrong, at one point, I feel like our district was not welcoming parents. And since that has happened, it seems as if they feel like they can't come back in. But we want you back in. Because if you're there and your child sees you on that campus, how do you think they're going to act? Do you think they're going to talk back and not be where they're not supposed to be if they know their mama is going to come up there or their father? No, they're not. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My next question, I'm going for it, okay? So y'all come on with it, okay? With a federal government that is insistent on dismantling the Department of Education and putting the states back in control, with Texas being a state who historically has not done a great job, especially with students that are represented in District 4. How does this decision impact District 4, and how will you fight to ensure history does not repeat itself?
So that was actually one of the reasons why I stepped into deciding to jump in this race. So when we look at the federal level, and we know that there are departments that are, the Department of Education is being dismantled as we sit here. And so looking at that and knowing that in District 4, we have 24 schools, and out of those 24 schools, 12 of them are ranked D and Fs, right? And so as a student who was sitting in that classroom at Spruce High School 20 years ago almost, I know for a fact that the sense of urgency at the local level needs to be here. So we need to be making a plan and putting that into operations. And so for me, we need to worry about that. We need to worry about vouchers. So we know that vouchers, they're likely to come. So how are we going to prepare our schools? Because when we look at school closings and how we're going to address the deficit that we have in our budget, then we potentially are looking at those schools that are sitting right in Pleasant Grove, that are sitting in Cleveland Riley, that are sitting in Sigleville. And frankly, that's not fair to our students. and we have to embody what the Department of Education was built for, which is civil rights, and of course make sure that everyone has access to the same level of education. And so for me, that I'm very passionate about that issue, and I hope that we can lay the groundwork here, because unfortunately, it's not just that. Our students are under attack at all, in all ways, right? So I'll stop.
One second for me. Just a quick reminder, no photos or videos are allowed. Thank you for that.
As we know, yes, there is a lot going on from the federal level to the state house. I am more concerned about what's going on at the state house because that directly affects us even more so. DISD has not been given a raise in student allotment since 2019, and that is $6,160. But they're talking about giving vouchers, and they're going to come out the gate and give them $10,000. Where's the equity in that? And the information that I did provide to some of you may have gotten it. If you didn't get a copy, see me afterwards. They have been systematically attacking public schools for years now. This just has not started. This plan has been in motion. Of course, you guys know that we paid a lot of money for special sessions the last time that the Congress came, that our state office came together and met. So we have a lot of work to do. You can also get involved. I have information that I would also like to give you that has the committee, the education committee people on it, and you can give them a call. Now, as far as yes, there's a lot going on at the national level that is affecting us because we are. But as you know, there have been a lot of court decisions that are pushing back on the president. That was one of the things that they actually pushed back on because there are funds that he just can't take away. Those funds, some of those funds include funding for our special needs students, SPED students, students that may have other disabilities. And also, we get our lunch portion money from that. So there are certain things that, even though he wants to kill it and kill everything and make himself and his friend rich, it's not going to happen. And I just ask that you continue to keep on top of what's going on in Austin right now when it comes to these vouchers, because we need our money. If you're going to give them more money than you're giving us out the bat, and you starved us out since 2019 and you haven't completed Robin Hood, that's not fair.
Thank you so much. I want to go ahead and open up for audience questions. So if you would like to ask a question, I'm going to ask that you come to my right, your left.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Ceccarelli. I'm a school board advocate. I go to all the school board meetings. I have one question I'm going to take and give you some information first. About the high schools, Children at Risk. This is from 2023-2024. Student achievement, that was the STAR test. 14 D's, 4 F's, and 4 C's. These are regular high schools in Dallas. College readiness, 5 D's, 13 F's, and 4 C's. The next one is campus performance. This means comparison of test scores with similar poverty levels. 6 D's and 15 F's and 3 C's. Now, when I go to school board next month, I'm going to bring this school by school, all the F's in a row. And it's going to sink in your head so much, it's going to really tell you how DISD is doing. Okay? My question to you is, how are you going to change this? And how are you going to bring up the information that we need to talk about high schools instead of elementary schools without, that's all they talk about, never about high schools because the grades stink. And how are you going to change it?
Okay, thank you for that question, sir. First of all, when it comes to, and I'm just coming to District 4. I understand he asked about all the high schools. We have to make sure that the reason we're trying to catch pre-K is so that we can get them ready. We have a lot of students that come here speaking another language. So if we don't start at the bottom, because we have more elementary schools than anything else, when you look at how the system is designed, it's like a triangle basically. We have less high schools at the top. And we want to make sure we catch those students. And in middle school, we want to make sure we keep them there. Now, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this and lie to you. Yes, I do have problems with high schools in District 4. But don't think I haven't been at the table having the conversations with the superintendent. If you didn't know, recently we just got 2 EDs in my area replaced because it's not my job. I will be told it's not my job to staff the schools. That decision is made from the superintendent, and it is. But when I come to you and I say, my schools are struggling, this is happening, what are you going to do? And I don't get an answer. It's not because I haven't said anything. It's not because I don't care. I've been watching Young Men's Academy struggle for the last 4 to 5 years. When I first got in the seat, the first thing came off of my tongue was, what are we going to do about the Young Men's Leadership Academy at Florence? When I look and I see not only teachers leaving, but our product, which is our student leaving, that's a problem. That's what I'm looking at. I can't control the fact that we have the same people in the same position and getting the same results. But I tell you one thing, I am definitely bringing it to their attention, and I'm like a broken record. Because when I tell you and it's happening, and you're sitting here acting like you don't hear me speaking to you, and the numbers speak, what else can I do? Get you guys out and holler as well. Thank you.
In terms of enrollment and in the high schools, that was something that I mentioned as well. All 3 high schools are ranked D and District 4, and so when I look at that information, I know that one, it is the allocation of resources. We have to continue to push our resources to these schools, and some of it includes, as Ms. White said, replacing staff, right? Whether it's the superintendent really has to take a hold of that because that's her role in terms of the system, but also we have to think about the education system broadly. And I think that's where I really think that there are opportunities for us to have larger partnerships, in particular in a district where there really aren't too many nonprofits. I mentioned that I started one because ultimately there were very few that were available to the community in that particular district. And so I think we have to work with others in order to make change. And then I also look at what's around us. We have charter schools around us. We have to continuously compete. And ultimately, some of that does come from mental health concerns. For example, we have students that find themselves in tough situations where they're being bullied. There's fights every day. As parents, they're like, we don't want to see that. We're going to send them to A+ Academy. I mean, it's just the reality. So I think it's laying it all out there, not just looking at the test, because we know that is only one data point, but ultimately looking at all the bigger picture and talking to our community and our parents, and also the students, of course.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alicia Serrato. I'm a daughter of Pleasant Grove, a daughter of immigrants. I'm a DISD product, and I was a DISD teacher for 13 years. Among many concerns I have DISD, one of them is teacher retention. I have a lot of teacher friends and educator friends in DISD, many who have left. My husband has also left the district. He's a 19-year teacher. What are some things that you guys can recommend or advocate for to help retain our teachers in DISD, our hardworking, good teachers?
One thing I would suggest that we do, I personally do not like TEI, which is a system that we utilize to rate our teachers, because how can you have a child rate a teacher and you consider that a part of their pay raise? It's just not fair. And ma'am, yes, I'm not going to lie. There are some things that I've been talking to teachers about, and I don't like it. There is retaliation when certain teachers speak out. And also, it's very important that teachers educate themselves on their rights, because some of them are part of a union and they don't know that they can file a grievance. And that is the most important thing that they can do in order to come back. I don't like for them to just sit there and suffer in silence. I'm not going to tell you guys everything, but let me say this. Teaching in DISD in some schools is a tough job. It's not your job to be the medic, the security officer. I could just go on and on. And yes, we are making some hard decisions by cutting back on staff right now. But the most important thing I do not want to see is cuts at the campus level. Because when you start cutting at the campus level, to me, that's a problem. Because you got teachers that are already, some of them, when it comes to planning periods and things like that, there's a lot that's going on. So, one thing that would definitely help is if people were to come to the school and say, if you're a retired teacher, even if you're not, you don't have to be retired in order to help a kid read. If you can read and you can hold up a flashcard, you can help a kid learn. Those are some of the things that I would suggest to help alleviate some of the problems of the teachers. But one thing that we really need to do, since Austin has been holding up our money, pay teachers more. I'm in favor of keeping good veteran teachers because we need them. Thank you.
In terms of teacher retention, I know the district has definitely been retaining more. I believe it was like 90% in terms of high-need campuses. But of course, there's always the reality that our teachers are employees, and so we need to provide them the benefits, the safety around their positions, and ultimately allow them to voice their concerns. I believe that TEI is not a perfect system. Ultimately, you have test scores and student surveys helping make the decision, right? And that the system itself, though, has in fact helped in terms of development, teacher training, and so it's not a perfect system. There are opportunities to fix certain issues with it. But of course, I have to recognize that the starting salary is $61,000 for most of our teachers, and that the district, according to what I've heard in the board meetings, there has been many teachers applying for the same position. But of course, that doesn't tell us the whole story. I think there have to be pathways of communication for teachers and for us to have full transparency, because of course, we don't know the whole picture, and she's right. Student surveys can only tell us one thing. They confused me for a teacher one day, and they said, "I got you, miss." And so on that student survey, and so there are things like that we have to make sure that people don't go through the loopholes, and also that teachers don't learn to game the system. And so I think it's what's the standard for education versus like here's the system that provides a compensation package.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Mason, and concerned parent. Texas Senate just passed SB 10 and SB 11 in regards to the 10 Commandments as well as prayer in school. So I'd just like your opinion or feedback on what you think the advantages or disadvantages of both of those bills being passed by the Texas Senate.
I'm a person of faith, right? I believe in God, and I share that openly. But ultimately, I believe that there has to be separation. And in terms of our parents, it has to be the parents who are deciding to educate and tell their students about God and other religious factors. Because ultimately, that is not the system's place. We should focus on student outcomes and leave God and 10 commandments to families.
Thank you for that question. And I feel that, first of all, they took prayer out of schools. They took the 10 Commandments out. So now you're going to try to take all of our money and tell us to pray to God to send us some help. Yes, we're going to pray to God, but we need you. If you're a Christian, we need you to do the right thing. We need you to give us the money. First of all, you were supposed to resolve Robin Hood, which our money was supposed to, the rich districts give money, and it was supposed to go to the districts, the southern districts in the state, which are the poor districts. But no, you didn't do that. You jumped right from Robin Hood to vouchers. And then when you jumped on vouchers, you're going to put your foot on our neck. You have not given us a raise since 2019. But you're going to come in here and you're going to give 100,000 students, because people think you're all going to get some of these vouchers. No, you're not. You're not going to get that money. It's going to be 100,000 people that's going to get that money, and they're going to get $10,000 right out the gate per student. And we're still at 2019 money. But you done notice your mortgage going up and your eggs price going up. So every time that and over the last 5 years, if you stay in the Metroplex, you notice that either your land has increased or your house and your land has increased. They're already pricing people out of homes. So that money that we're paying, because everybody says, oh, the school district gets most of the money. Yes, we do. But it ends up back in the general fund that the government is spending. And we don't know if they're building a wall or what they're doing with our taxpayer money that we are struggling to pay our bills with. There's no justice in that. Thank you.
Howdy, I'm Bill Betson. I'm a retired Dallas teacher. I retired 14 years ago to become a studentmotivation.org project volunteer. And that's what I am. I'm a postmaster for that project. And basically, we're parents. We ask parents to be postmasters. And y'all have mentioned a lot of things. Chronic absenteeism, parental involvement, virtually, and teacher turnover. All of those problems are improved when you have motivated students. And the way you get motivated students is you focus them on their own goals, their own life goals, and you focus them on their own roots, their family history. They get that from mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles who write letters to them every year about goals, their goals for the child, and a story from family history. Will you support this project, studentmotivation.org? Would you help this go? It's free, it don't cost anything. All it takes is the volunteers, one out of every 50 parents.
Mr. Bill, I actually love that because ultimately our students, I talk about my story and it means so much because I can't say that I had a lot of hope when I was a student. And even when I go back to Spruce and I see the kids are mad, I'm like, I was mad 20 years ago and I'm still mad. And so for me, having these letters and knowing that someone cares for you means so much to these students. And so I would 100% support that. Of course, I know that some of our parents, they have, maybe no clue how to decipher, nowadays we're like SMART goals and all of these things. But I can tell you that even me, who my parents were hardworking individuals that came to this country, they had the one goal of having the American dream, and that's what I get to live every single day. So even that, that should be in a letter.
I do support that. And on top of that, this is what I also support. Because at my kids' school, they had to do a family tree. And you really don't know how valuable that is. And when you look at it, you got your parents' side, your grandfather, your grandmother, and all that. And so I did that. And not only did I do it, I kept it up down through the years. So I definitely support that. There is so much that students can do. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the home. It could come from the church. It could come from someone that's a community liaison. It could come from just anyone who wants to motivate a child to do better. My mother always told me, she never told me what I needed to become in life, but she told me to always do the best that you can do and put 100% in it. And that's what I tell my kids, and that's what I tell other people, kids as well. I was in the schools, I substituted for 2.5 years. And I hate to tell y'all this, but I realize that that's not my call. And when you know it's not your call, stay in your lane. Stay in my lane. So, and then I went and I also was a professor at a community college, and those blessings came over there as well. With the teamwork makes the dream work. And I'm sitting here, are you serious? We have software that can just catch you in this. So I just stopped because I didn't want to ruin a lot of young careers before they got started. But absolutely, anything that we can use to motivate young people, whether it's learning to sew, a craft, go to the Career Institute, get yourself a good trade that we have. We have 3 in the north, the south, and we're getting another one coming. So yes, absolutely, I support it. Thank you so much.
Very good.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to
Hello, I'm Trustee Joyce Foreman, District 6. I have several questions, but I only ask one because I will obey. The question that I have is, since I've been on the school board since 2014, there's been an issue with closing the gap between African Americans and other students. What I would like to know from both of you is, do you plan to work on closing the gap? And if you do, what will you do to close the gap?
So when you look at student data, I've mentioned it several times, it only tells us one story. And of course, when I looked at data, I noticed that our African American students, we need to provide more support. We need to provide more support for our Latino students. We need to make sure that we disaggregate data constantly, because ultimately, if this doesn't answer your question, Dr. Foreman, you can ask another, but well, maybe not. But in terms of that, you know, I'm definitely committed. You know, in my neighborhood, I know that there are kids of, you know, all different backgrounds, and ultimately, I believe in the power of diversity and how we can integrate equity and racial equity and target population so that they're successful. And so that if that means giving a certain group more, then that's what we need to do. And so I'm not opposed to it. Obviously, I'm fully in support of us providing more for certain populations. And of course, we can't be successful as an overall district if we're not looking at our African American students and their reading levels in particular, if we're not looking at Latinos and their CCMR numbers. We need to make sure that we look at data as a whole and ask the hard questions as to what we need to do to address these gaps.
There's no need, we already know what the data says. DISD is rich in data. We don't have anything else, we have numbers for you. If we don't have money, we got numbers for you. So what has happened is that money that used to be shifted to Black students to help them excel has now been shifted to the Hispanic students. ESL, other programs that they have. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's programs called Me Mr. It was basically for African American males. But of course, all is welcome. So Hispanic males join in as well. So when it comes to, when you look at the numbers, and if you see that African American students are at the bottom, but you're not putting they keep saying they're putting the funding there, but it's not happening. So there, and yes, the gap has closed some, but we're not there. And until we get there, we need to continue to fight for African American males. You don't have to worry about certain groups. They're going to get their money anyway. There's a lot that has changed. A lot that has changed within the DISD. At one point, we have only had one African American superintendent. We've had a number of Hispanic superintendents. And those in charge, when they rule, we get that. But you shouldn't forget African American students, and especially the males, because they are really struggling. If we had everything we needed as a people, we wouldn't be in 2025 saying Black Lives Matter. So, yes, we need everybody educated. We need all the resources that they're saying they're going to get to make sure we have it. Because Black males in this society have a target on them. I'm sorry, it's true. Black while driving, Black on the job. You hired, it doesn't matter how long you've been here lately. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Elaine Campbell. This is a question for both of you. And this is kind of similar to the question that was just asked, but in a different direction. I know there's been quite a bit of data specific to DISD showing that discipline is addressed harsher for Black American students, specifically Black little boys, but also Black females, and plays a great deal. DISD does a lot to play a great deal into the school to prison pipeline. So I would like for both of you to answer what you would do to continue to address that. I believe some minor things have been done, but I'd like to, because, but still, it's still the same. So I'd like to know what you would do to address that. Both of you.
So today I was just at Dallas County because all of these issues are intertwined. And so the reason why I went is because I wanted to know, I know the zip codes. I know 75216 is the highest incarceration zip code. And I know that 75217 is up there in the top 4. So the reason why I mention this is because this is information that we need to know. We need to know our students are entering the system sometimes even when they're just simply going to school. And I say that because there are in fact policies that push students into the pipeline. And that could look like a policy that sends you off to an alternative school where you're isolated. It could look like a policy that puts you in, now there's reset centers and we're trying to target more of that. But ultimately, in-school suspension has always been that pipeline. I would say for Black and brown kids, which is predominantly our district, we need to make sure that we are not allowing them to fall in that system, because ultimately we encounter so many situations within the neighborhood that essentially they just happen to be there at a certain time. And I've seen it with my classmates, I've seen it with my local community where ultimately I shouldn't know this many people that are incarcerated. And sometimes it started off because they were hungry and they went and took a sandwich from a convenience store, and now suddenly they're in the system and they're more likely to serve in the penitentiary. So for me, I'm very, somebody gave me a book when I was block walking this weekend. They said, read this, and I said, I'll take it, because it gave me all the information I need to know. But I already know that our kids, our Black kids, our brown kids are targets for this. And now for our brown kids, we have to worry about, let me bring my passport. Because ultimately we're entering the system through a different way as well.
Some of the things that I have done and that we can still do as trustees is ask those questions of staff. Ask staff how many of our students are going to, per campus, you can look and see how many students have, which I've gotten the information. How many of our students are being expelled, being disciplined, and for what reasons? And a lot of times when you don't have a campus that is equally balanced race-wise, I just feel that when you have a campus that is basically catering to Hispanics, of course, there's a problem because sometimes African Americans are targeted. And I feel that is wrong, because bottom line is, I look at Hispanics as our cousins, our first cousins, because everything that we experience, they experienced. Now, they may not experience it to the severity as we as Black people, but it's happening. When they're driving while brown or driving while Black, they're getting pulled over too. If you're in an area and you're the only, you're the minority race there, more likely the police are gonna pull you over. So yes, there is disparities when it comes to discipline still with Black students. Sometimes I'm looking at records and the same infraction, if a Hispanic student or white student does it, it's overlooked. It's not even written up. And then I'm looking at the fact that when a Black student does something, it's like we're gonna throw the book at them. Matter of fact, just real quick, when I was at a UIL hearing, the same thing happened to an African American coach, because they said, we don't want to end up getting severely disciplined if we don't discipline him to the max, but you don't let everybody else off. So things like that are continuing to happen. I don't know how to fix it.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your questions. I'm glad you asked that last question, because I was going to try to figure out how to get y'all to put disciplinary action to fit that into your closing argument. So thank you. I didn't have to make y'all fit that into your closing argument. So we are to a point for our closing statements, and so you have 2 minutes for that. I want to thank you both for your time tonight, and share your closing statements. You have 2 minutes. We'll start with you.
Once again, my name is Camille White. I am the incumbent. I am asking you to re-elect me into this seat. I do still have a lot of things that I would like to see done, but you know, you never know. I never take anything for granted. I'm actually working hard to make sure I do get reelected because I want to make sure that the things that I have started continue. I want to make sure that Samuel has been needing some serious repairs for years. We haven't got our competition gyms. There's a lot that I would still like to do, but most importantly, there's more parent involvement access. I would definitely like to get involved. I welcome, even though we don't have nonprofits, a lot of nonprofits in our area, I tell you what, there's a lot of nonprofits that are always, not only nonprofits, but candidates that are elected officials that are always in our district when it comes time to vote and when they want their persons elected, but they're not there when it's time for them to actually see about us and get dollars in our district. That really does have to stop. So most importantly, the reason that I am here is for kids. It's not for the salary. I'm unbossed and unbothered. So I don't have anybody that I gotta worry about giving my vote to because, you know, they're giving me money or they're financing me. I don't have that. I'm here because my community put me in this seat. No business person put me in this seat. And once again, the reason that I am running is for kids because I have seen what's been happening. And it's not right. And that's what angers me. When our kids are mistreated. Once again, my name is Camille White. I am the incumbent. My email address is CamilleWhite@CamilleWhite.com. My website is CamilleWhite.com. You're welcome to reach out, and donations are welcome. Thank you.
I'm Prisma Garcia. This race means that our kids can grow up and do this. And when we hear about power and influence, we know that we didn't grow up with it, but we earned it. And so we earned this power, and I'm not run by business people. I am the business person. Because now we've come up, and I want every student in District 4 to be able to have the opportunities that I found by chance. And that shouldn't be by chance. We should promote access and offer these things to our students. And so with that, you know, I hope that you will consider me for this position. I know that there are many things to consider, but you can check me out. Go on PrismaGarcia.com, and you'll know that I am prepared to be in this role because of my professional experience and because of the compassion that I hold. I have a business mind and a servant heart. So I hope today has helped gain some support, but regardless, know that I'm here for our children because our kids are our future, and that's the only way that our neighborhoods will thrive.
Thank you both so much. You can exit the stage. Thank you again so much. Y'all give them a hand, please. Thank you all again so much. So we are now going to our candidates for the DISD District 5. So Natasha, Byron, and Devon. Devon, I want to make sure I get it right. Y'all can go ahead and head to the stage. Good evening to you both. Thank you so much again for being here and answering the invitation and joining us today. We look forward to hearing from you. We are going to start with your opening statement. You have 2 minutes, and I'm going to say ladies first because
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am Natasha Gerald, and I am a candidate for School Board Trustee for District 5. I am a proud product of public schools, DISD, District 5, from R.L. Thornton to Atwell to South Oak Cliff. I received a quality education. I had quality teachers, and I am an advocate for the same for our students now and future generations to come. I have served in this community for over 20 years, advocating for all of the things that we have been thoughtfully discussing and sharing our insight on. And as a leader, a grassroots leader, I decided, and actually I say decided very lightly, but I am obedient to my next step in my calling to further my advocacy platform. We have been very diligent and I've been very intentional about building bridges to address gaps in student inequities, specifically within the Southern sector and our Black and Brown communities. And there comes a time when you can make all the recommendations, but because you do not have the power as a decision maker, you cannot actually affect change. So that is my journey now as school board trustee. And I'm here to make a positive change and continue the work that we've done within the district to make sure our students have what they need to thrive and to be successful, whether they choose career or college. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Byron Sanders. Mission of Byron Keith Sanders is to love my God with all my heart and soul, to be the husband, father, son, brother, according to what pleases him, to work diligently and daily in my most sincere efforts to pursue my appointed purpose with honor, character, bravery, and love. I share that because that's the heart of my mission statement. I believe that Dallas ISD is a place that has helped shape where that mission statement came from. I'm a son of this city, I'm a son of this district, and I'm a son of a 40-year educator. She's sitting over there. She kind of looks like me, so you probably recognize her if you get a chance to look around. I grew up here in Dallas ISD. I started at Adele Turner as a Tiger. We stay Tigers for the rest of our lives. But I'm gonna tell you this, I also went to private school in high school. And in high school, it was the first time that I was around wealth. And it was interesting because one of the things that I noticed when I was up there was that those kids weren't smarter than the kids I grew up around. Those kids weren't better than my kids, my friends, but we had different stories. And I realized even back then that the kids down here from Oak Cliff, Wilma Hutchins, West Dallas, these kids deserved as much of an opportunity as anybody anywhere else. I'm running to make sure that I can be a part of making that happen. I've worked in education my whole adult life and even before. And what I want to make sure is that we can use this education system, Dallas ISD, to become the springboard for kids to be able to live the most thriving lives possible, no matter what zip code they're from, no matter their race or socioeconomic background. Everybody deserves a chance for their innate greatness to shine, and that's what I want to be a part of as a Dallas ISD trustee.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. My first question, I'm going to take us back almost 2 years now. The Texas Education Agency took over HISD, replacing with their own elected board and superintendent. Okay. My question is twofold: are you for or against the decision that was made? And my second question is Dallas ISD next in line for that, and what will you do to fight for or against that?
I thought it was a travesty. I'm not for the state coming in and taking over the school district. And quite frankly, that law is not about children's success. What it is about power and control. And it was a grab of a school district that should be locally controlled by duly elected representatives, and I'm against it. So what do? Could we be on the block? Maybe, possibly. One job, or I guess one direction, is to go the route of not pissing off people in Austin. I don't think that's the route that we need to go. What I think is we need to be strategic about ensuring that we have, yes, the administration's back, but at the end of the day, this is a district owned by the people. And the people need to be the ones who have the power to decide what they get to do. And at the end of the day, we need to continue with our strategy We said we wanted to base our entire strategy on closing gaps in equity. We stick with that. Do we need to change the language to stay off of somebody's radar or within the law? Okay, maybe, but the strategy needs to be the same. We need to stand 10 toes down for our immigrant communities, right? We have people who disenroll from school because they're scared to show up because they think ICE is going to be doing a raid in the area. We need to make sure that everybody knows that you're loved here, you're protected here, and this school district is going to be a place where we stand 10 toes down for these kids and these communities. So no, we should not be taken over by the district. By the state. I'm not for that. And I want to do everything that we can to make sure we fight for our kids and to maintain control of this school district down here in Dallas.
So I also do not believe that the state should control our school. However, the whole purpose of the public school system is to educate the child. What I am in favor of is results, and sometimes it takes radical moves to get the results that our kids and our community deserve. Now, there needs to be a strategy behind it, but that also is why your elected officials are so important, because you have trustees, you have elected officials at the state level who serve on education committees and should be championing the voice of the community and putting kids at the forefront. So it is our job to make sure that the state does not have the parameter to even consider coming in, because we need to be working collaboratively and collectively to push our kids into a place to where they are succeeding. The truth is, our scores are horrible. That's the truth. And if the whole goal of the public education system is to educate the child, we need to be focused on academic outcomes and what it takes to truly increase those academic outcomes. We know TEA has scale scores. So at any baseline, in any project, if you're working on anything with process improvement, you just gotta know where you start. So the start is to be honest with ourselves, with our educators, with our communities, within our families, with our children, and set an expectation so that then we can actually see the needle move towards academic increases and positive outcomes.
Thank you. My next question is, a lot of times, I think we both have mentioned your call and your purpose in this world and the advocacy that's necessary. Sometimes that comes along with a disagreement with certain policies that are in place, that are in existence. So my question to you is, what current policies have you seen in District 5 that you disagree with, and what will you do to change or address that if you are elected?
So I will start. For anyone who does not know, I currently serve as the president for the Sock Alumni Bear Cave. I've been vice president since 2017 and president since 2020. Through my leadership, I've been very intentional about addressing gaps, working with other community leaders and SBDM chairs and the people who are present every day at the campuses, whether it's our community liaisons or other alumni, to address, again, the things that are not directly outlined in policy. DISD policy is very ambiguous and it's conflicting. And anybody who knows that you should sit down and really have those discussions with the chiefs and also our superintendent. I've created those spaces and developed those relationships. The two things, and it's not necessarily changes in policy, but a lack thereof. We've got to have a disciplinary policy that finds balance with allowing our kids to actually have the space to learn and our teachers to teach without all the reprimand. We've got to have a safety and security policy, because our campus security are also teachers. They're also hall monitors. They're also all these other things that do not focus on actually securing the school. So those are two main policies which are actually outlined in my priorities that we will definitely focus on when I'm trustee.
All right now.
So for the last 7 years, I've been the CEO and president of Big Thought. Big Thought is an organization that's worked with Dallas ISD, 100,000 kids. It's a beautiful organization, out of school time, summer programming, all different types of ways in order to engage and work with young people. One of the challenges that we run into oftentimes is our kids oftentimes are disengaged. Straight up, truly, they don't want to be there. And one of the things that sucks the life out of education is a huge emphasis, an overemphasis on testing. Assessments and testing. It's important for us to know where our young people are. It's important for us to know how well we're doing. But you know what? It's possible to do too much testing. I've seen young people show up with a passion in their eyes, with a gleam in their eyes and a smile on their face. I've seen people, my own kids, go to school in Dallas ISD and be excited about going to these classes, but then realize when I pick them up, that excitement almost is gone. It's evaporated, and it's because there's such an emphasis on testing. I believe that we need to create and embrace policy that allows us to be smarter about how we're applying our ability to measure. Be smarter about how we're creating elbow room for educators to bring more of the art of their education as opposed to only the science and the practice. We need the ability for the educators to be able to meet these young people where they're at and to connect with them on a human level to show them that I know how much you care, and so now I'm going to pay attention to what you're telling me. And I feel like we have a situation and a scenario and a policy that has created an overemphasis on tests that at times keeps us from being able to actually teach and connect.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask one more question as we prepare for audience questions. So if you would like to ask a question, the mic will be on my right, your left. And my final question, I want to hear your thoughts on, as I mentioned in the previous panel, our federal government is insistent on dismantling the Department of Education. What are your thoughts? How does that impact District 5?
So, I am a federal employee who just was impacted with the department that I work in being dismantled and me being reassigned to a place where still today I literally don't know where I work or what I'm doing, but I know that I have a job. The things that are happening on a federal level as it pertains to our departments and our bureaus, I will say, and this is my federal hat on, a lot of the things are being done immaturely, prematurely, and not necessarily legally. So what we can do while it trickles down is to be steadfast again with our elected officials at the state and our current trustees and the trustees to come, so that we are advocating for the things that our community needs. We as a voter, as a taxpayer, what your job is to vote. So you've got to hold your elected officials accountable, because at the end of the day, the law is the law. And we cannot affect change without the right people voicing and making those legislative decisions. So when it comes down to your personal opinions or your thoughts or your biases, we've got to unify. And we've got to work together as a district to make sure that we're taking a hard retrospective look at where the budget is already allocated. If we can have anything switched to a different bucket or fund, partnering with outside agencies to secure additional funding and resources that our kids need, being creative and being innovative through this time, because we know that tough times don't last always, and we'll get through this.
All right now.
So the federal government was created because of the civil rights movement. Not the federal government, the Department of Education was created because of the civil rights movement. And we're in a world where in just a few days, we've had somebody who wants to throw us back in time with their hands on the joystick and then move it. The cavalry's not coming. It's gonna be us. And so what we need to do is embrace all of the different ways that we can bring resources back into our school district. We need to be fighting for fighting tooth and nail for every cent that we can get out of Austin. We also need to be embracing some innovative programs, innovative strategies to increase the funding, because if the money's not there coming from the federal department, that is a significant hit for a school district that had high concentrations of Title I schools, high concentrations of English language learners, high concentrations of the kids who need the most, and we need it now. So the question is, what are we doing to push every lever we have in order to bring those resources in? I have a history of being able to raise money. I can do that because I've been able to build bridges across the city. I was able to double the budget of my organization from 7 to 14 million. The goal is to be able to bring in resources not only locally, but also nationally. Make sure that we commit and maintain our commitment to equity, because there are people out there who still recognize the value in making sure that Black children specifically succeed, that Latinos children specifically succeed. We can bring those resources down, but at the end of the day, we realize we can't rely on the federal government, so we have to take those matters into our own hands, and without the protections from the Civil Rights Department that should have been in that same department, we have to own it ourselves and hold ourselves accountable to equity-based strategy.
There's been a lot of talk about community engagement. However, many of our community liaisons have been fired. What I'd like to hear tonight specifically is, what have you done specifically in working directly with the DISD schools, and what are your plans to continue working with DISD schools specifically?
All right. Thank you for your question, brother. Working with DISD schools specifically has been a part of my upbringing since I can remember. It started back in college. We started a tutoring and mentoring organization called Group Access. We would bring college kids into our schools to mentor and tutor. We were able to take bubble students from 0 of them passing to 75% passing rates in the elementaries, middles, and high schools for years and years. Moved from there to then work as the executive director to reboot the Dallas Education Foundation, which is thriving now because it's able to go and bring in private resources to support our school districts. Fast forward, like I said, for the last 7 years, I've been the CEO of Big Thought, and all we did was partner with organizations to make sure that they were able to bring assets for Dallas ISD schools. The whole professional background in my world and my civic background has been about working directly with the school districts. But I think to address some of what you said, we have short budgets, so we're having to make tough decisions. I think we got to leverage some of these community-based partners. We got to leverage people like 4 Oak Cliff, like Community Dozen, like all of these organizations that also have relational and social capital in these communities, so that we can use their resources to serve our kids. Because it's the same kids, it's the same ones. And they have a life after 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday. How are we partnering with them to invest in? We can share data, we can share practices, we can strategize, but we have to bring those community-based organizations in.
So I have a long history of advocating and working with schools and communities. My advocacy began actually at 19 years old. I was a member of the PTA because I was tasked with being a parent to my younger brother. So I was PTA, Booster Club. That was the beginning of a fire that is still burning strong because there are so many gaps in what our kids have access to and what they deserve access to. Not only is it building your PTAs, it's working with your parents to build parent coalitions and educate our community about the things that are going on. So managing from top up and also educating the community from the bottom to understand how they can get engaged and better advocate for their students. I work directly with the district to address issues that affect our community: housing insecurities, food insecurities, modeled implementation plans to reevaluate departments and after-school programs that were not serving the intended purposes, which has actually led to the current state of the Family and Community Engagement Office, which services our homeless students and families. So very, very well versed in advocating and working with our kids, not only at the campus level, but again, getting things implemented at the district level, because that's where the policy changes happen and that's where the transformation happens.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Graham, and I wanted to say thank you to Ms. White and to Ms. Foreman because I know the job that you guys have done. But you guys, I stand before you as a product of my environment. I'm a graduate of LG Pinkston High School, and all I've heard is how short the ISD is on this, and there's no funds for that. There's no fund. Well, could you guys please tell me what you guys are going to do about the $200 and some $1,000 that it costs for DISD to change the name of LG Pinkston High School? How are you guys gonna make up that money?
So I'll start with that. And actually, name changes and things like that are a responsibility of the trustee. So you would have to look to your current trustees to discuss those actual issues about the cost of the name changing and whether or not a name change was warranted. What I have done in my community is advocate for buildings to be brought up to a capacity where they are actually usable. The state of our current infrastructure was horrible. We've made so much change and progress in just the simple thing of having a kid go to a place where they can sit in a classroom and have a building that's equipped for them to learn. I would advocate for name changes that are supported and warranted by the community. My focus is not on the name on an edifice, it's the purpose of the edifice. And if we're not educating our kids, it doesn't matter whose name it is, because again, we're falling short every time. However,
I'm sorry, excuse me. The unnecessary talking, we can't have that here. We will listen to the candidate and the candidate only. We can't have outbursts. We are here for the purpose of listening to each candidate. We have to have respect in this space. Thank you. Ma'am, I'm sorry. Did you pause our time? Yes. You can continue.
Thank you. But I was just going to close by saying that with the name change, when trustee, I will work closely with the community to make sure that whatever name is reflected on our buildings within the community is collective of what our community deserves and wants and finds value in, and what our children can find a story behind. Mr. Belson talked about time capsules, but so much is lost because we just simply do not talk and share our history. And so there's sacredness in naming our buildings so that we will have a sense of pride within our communities.
So I believe also that, names matter. Names are important. But also it's a process if we're gonna change them. One, I think it has to be community driven. It can't just be something that the trustee themselves has said has to happen and it's going to happen.
Right.
We need to listen to the people who feel a lot of ownership, have shared history in these buildings. And that's important. The other thing is, what a learning opportunity. If we change a school name without necessarily engaging the young people who are there at that school, who have graduated, alumni, who have recently graduated from that school, I think it's a missed opportunity for people to have a shared hand in building and developing their school and their community. That's how you get people to come back. That's how you get people to lock in and feel like that school is my school for the rest of my life. So I think that's really important. The other thing that I think is critically important is you talked about the money. We don't really have money to just be wasted right now, right? And I'm not saying that the name change is ever necessarily in and of itself a waste of money, but we got to have priorities. And the priorities have to be what's going on with these young people. The resources that are going into their learning journey and their learning experiences. So what I believe is that we should be finding ways, like I said, to make sure that every dollar goes as far as it can go. To get creative about that, in fact. But I also have a history of working with young people and working with communities on behalf of their schools. And specifically a history here in District 5. A lot of people don't know, but part of the work that happened around making sure that SOC was there, I was part of that. And I didn't have to be, but I stepped in and I made sure that we were listening to these young people in the ways that I could help. And I would do the same thing with regard to our schools in our community.
Yeah, my name's Robert Ceccarelli. I both have to say that you both failed about something I was looking for. What goes on after 3 o'clock when the students leave? 1982, Nation at Risk came out. Talked about all this testing, all this and all that. Nothing has changed. Only thing that has to change is where they're going to live after school. Where they're going to study, where they have the resources, where they're going to have a quiet area. Randy Bowman has something right across the South Oak Cliff. What I'm so pissed off about is, why is it so quiet? When he first got there, everything had a lot of future, but all of a sudden it's dead on arrival. The school board doesn't care about it. Elizaje doesn't care about it. You know why? Because Randy Bowman isn't DISD. DISD and Randy Bowman are two separate entities, and there's a lot of jealousy going on. My question to you is, I go to all the school board meetings. I'm going to be looking for this. What are you going to do with Randy Bowman after 3 o'clock so they can have the right environment to study? Without that, you can have the greatest teachers in the world. Everything can be great, but they can't study after 3 o'clock in a nice environment. Nothing's going to work. This has been going on for decades. I'm tired of hearing about education gap between whites and blacks. Worry about the person only. Just worry about one person. Don't worry about the whites and blacks and the education gap, because that just leads on to more racism. But what are you going to do with Randy Bowman and work together with him to make sure that the students can go somewhere after 3 o'clock and live there during the week? Without that, it's going to be a continued failure. Thank you.
Randy Bowman is a good friend. His program, At Last, is a fantastic program and is serving a lot of young people particularly well. Brother, after 3 o'clock has been one of the most important things in my life personally, and one of the most important things in the education journey that I've been a part of. Big Thought, that's literally what we focused on. It was after school programming and it was summer. The whole point of being there, though, is recognizing that we don't fund our schools enough. Our schools should have more resources to be able to take care of, invest in, and partner alongside people to make sure that what happens after 3 o'clock ends up getting a significant investment as well. The other thing that I'll share, and respectfully, is this. I would love to have a colorblind approach to education, but we don't have colorblind outcomes. Unfortunately, the same story that we've seen is that black kids are consistently at the bottom in performance. And it's not because black kids are dumb, can't read, and don't care. It's because of systemic and institutional inequity that has existed in this city and throughout all cities in this country for years. And if we're going to see a difference in changes of outcomes, we're going to need to see an overinvestment in those communities that have been disinvested in. You can't stop punching a person and then be like, all right, bet, we're all starting at the same level right now. So what I'm saying is that's why we have to maintain a commitment to equity. And in equity, what that means simply says is that the kids who need the most get the most. And if you see that happening, then over time, we will see the gains take place. And one of the places where we say they need the most is also in after school and out of school time enrichment. So I agree with you there. We need to make investment, but it's going to take partnership, and we have to continue to look at it broken down by race.
So I will say that the issue or the lack of after-school programming and quality after-school programming was one of the first things that I focused on in my advocacy way back in 2015, 2016, 2017. Randy Bowman actually came to the Bear Cave for our support when he was wanting to go to the city to get funding and support to build his boarding school, which is right across from South Oak Cliff. We supported it after reviewing the data and his model. The difference, which he brought up, the gentleman brought up, is that Randy Bowman is not public school. Randy Bowman has access to other resources. Our schools have access to public funds, taxpayer dollars. So what we can do in situations like that is basically have the conversation to see what is working, what we can adopt, what we have the budget to adopt, what we can resource or outsource through partnerships or other funding opportunities. But that just speaks to the gaps again in public education. And I agree with Byron. It's not colorblind. We cannot be colorblind because we wouldn't be addressing the actual issues. Historically, Black and brown students have performed 20 to 30% less than their white and Asian counterparts. And so that's just the hard truth, and we're going to have to start taking a hard look at what we can do as a community, as stakeholders, as educators, as parents, as just community members to push the education and champion public education and funding for the things we need.
Good evening. Given the current teacher shortage and the rising number of educators leaving the profession due to inadequate compensation and poor student discipline, what specific solutions can you prioritize for teacher pay and classroom support roles over central office staff? How will we retain high-quality teachers and reduce the large class sizes, especially in the underperforming schools, to create the learning environment that's needed to increase the academic outcomes? I'll repeat it again. Given the current teacher shortages and the rising number of educators leaving the profession due to inadequate compensation and poor student discipline, what solutions do you have that prioritize teacher pay and classroom support roles over central office staff positions to help us retain high-quality teachers, reduce the large class sizes, especially in underperforming schools, to create the learning environment necessary to increase positive academic outcomes?
So our role in education is understanding that the person that's in front of your child has the biggest impact on them. And when I say in front, it's not limited to the teacher. You have security staff, you have janitors, you have support staff, you have office administrators, you have nurses. All of these people from day in to day out interact with your child and they develop relationships with your children. We know that there's a lack in funding for salaries, but it begins with the administration prioritizing what matters most. Where can we reallocate funds? Our campuses need to create a culture, and that is fueled by the teacher satisfaction, the support that they receive on campus, being able to feel heard, and also advocated for. These teachers, they get up day in and day out. They voice their opinions on an anonymous hotline. They go to the school board meetings. They work through their local unions for these same issues. As a community leader, I have been able to advocate to get training for buses, materials on buses, just the basic things that you would think as an everyday person, a teacher would already be equipped to have. We've got to get back to the basics and understand what it takes to balance the roles of teachers. And also, again, as I stated earlier, discipline or lack thereof, we've got to have a policy that allows the teacher to teach, but still holds the kid and their families accountable for being disruptive in the classroom.
So again, I come from a family of teachers. I come from a family of educators. I talked about my mother, 40 years as an educator. My aunt, 40 years at Kimball, math. Even the medical professionals in my family, like school nurses, right? Like we're in the schools, right? So it is a crying shame and a travesty that the most important job in society is also one of the least respected and one of the most underpaid and overworked professions. It's a fact. So what can we do right now in a world where we have constrained resources, where we have limited dollars? Well, I think we need to be creative about alleviating the challenges in educators' lives. One of the things, just as an idea. So we're likely going to have a bond coming up in 2026. What would it look like if we could use some of those bond dollars to alleviate one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest financial challenges in the teacher's world right now? It's housing. Housing. What would it look like if we could create the kind of housing that would be for teachers and educators so that they wouldn't have to live all the way out in Wiley, so they wouldn't have to drive all the way in from far Grand Prairie or Deep Garland in order for us to have them stay in the profession, and not just stay in the profession, stay in these schools, stay in this community. What would that look like? What would it look like if we created the kind of equity certification where teachers could get an additional stipend for doing the things that we know matter, which is becoming proficient and culturally proficient in teaching Black children? Could we create that? I know we can, because there are models of these things happening across the country. But we're going to have to get creative, because what we don't have is just a big check that we can write. So let's get creative and use every lever to make sure that we're resourcing the lives of our teachers.
I'm going to ask you guys to answer tonight the question I've been working on for 20 years. And so I'm looking forward to your answers. Now, the Time Capsule Project, the StudentMotivation.org project, actually was shut down in 2020 due to COVID. And basically, everybody stopped writing letters, and we noticed the SEI scores dropping in every school that had raised their SEI by having their parents write letters to their kids. So it really makes a difference. Well, in 23-24 at SOC, we basically took this project, and with the leadership of Derek Bati, right back there in the big shirt, Basically, we did a phenomenal job. And in 1 year, SOC raised their SEI score 9.5 points. That's more than any other high school in the entire city. It's a phenomenal rate. Now, the only negative is there were 2 other schools a half a point ahead of us. So we weren't the best, but we're fixing that this year. So, and another thing about SOC, it is the school in DISD with the largest black enrollment. It just shows you that motivated kids can do anything they put their mind to. Here's my question. Okay. What is more powerful in motivating students than annually updated life goals and, at least annually, students exploring their family history with their own family?
What's up next? Bill, thank you for sharing that. And you and I, guys, we've known each other a long time, and I've seen your work for a long time and have advocated for your work for a long time. What Bill is on to is its purpose. You know, you can build a ship, you can build a thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to come unless they know that it matters in their lives. Studies show that kids make a decision to drop out in middle school. They just don't do it for a few years. Most kids who end up not completing a high school decided that it wasn't for them by 6th grade. If I don't know why I'm here, then what I'm doing matters a whole lot less. Purpose matters. And what you have done, and what I know there's some other organizations out there that are working in that same thing, is helping young people find purpose for themselves, identify purpose for themselves. There's a reason why I started with my mission statement. It's because that mission statement, that's my purpose. And I needed it in the dark, dark times when nobody else was believing in me, where I had challenges that I couldn't see to the end of. That purpose gave you another reason to put one step in front of the next. And we know that matters for us as adults. Why don't we create more opportunities for young people to distill that and be intentional about it? There's a lot of research behind this. Anthony Burroughs out of Cornell University shows what happens when purpose gets infused into education. Beautiful things happen across all socioeconomic backgrounds, across every race and ethnicity. It's powerful. And so I would advocate for anything and everything that we can do to bring purpose and identity into our schools and allow young people to discover that for themselves.
So, Bill, I think SOC was the pilot school, and behind our illustrious community liaison, you have alumni supports championing this time capsule program. And the reason why I supported it is not because of the actual activity, but at the core, knowing who you are and having a sense of pride and having something to aspire to, and then going back and being able to say, oh, look how far I've come, and being a model for the next person to say, if I came from this circumstance and I achieved my goals as I've outlined them, then you can too. It is so important to build that and paint that picture for our youth. When I was growing up, so I'm 42, and I graduated in 2000, we actually had our own time capsule. This was before Mr. Belton had the idea, and it's buried somewhere on South Oak Cliff campus. Don't know where it is. But the point is, my grandmother told us all through our youth and as growing up, you create the school. The school does not create you. So we, as a community, have to provide our kids with the level of expectations and excellence so that they can know who they are and know that they have a responsibility outside of themselves to turn around and be successful in whatever that looks like, and to know that they have a community of support, as well as being able, again, to go and do their civic duty and build up the next generation. So I support the program, and we'll continue to support it. and expand it to things outside of just a time capsule, especially now when our history is being erased.
So just a quick question. Thank you. So regarding equity and inclusion, I've heard some conversation about that. Under the current climate, DEI is in front of us. So what are your thoughts about how do we get around the current climate to continue to push our children forward?
So I'll go first, and I will I'll put on my federal hat again as well, because as we know, diversity, equity, and inclusion is no more on a federal scale under this administration. And we know things are in season and out of season, but in this season, we're going to have to be very creative and intentional about how we incorporate it. We shift our verbiage so that we're making sure that we're using words that aren't necessarily those buzzwords of DEI, but understanding what true diversity and inclusion is. Diversity and inclusion could be a breastfeeding room. Diversity and inclusion could be additional tutors for our kids who are underperforming in reading and math. That is the type of support that should be in place to make sure that we have equity. And equity is a small word with a big meaning, because my equity is different from yours, is different from yours, is different from yours. And to begin to break down those barriers and also break down those biases, it starts at the table, it starts in conversations, it starts in intentional, safe spaces, so that we can actually get to the root causes of these things and work to build a culture where we each respect one another and we look at one another as brother and sister, and we can advocate for our needs collectively instead of just individually.
I agree very much with my sister here that at the end of the day, the work has to move forward. And the good thing is, we actually have the law on our side, believe it or not. Even as they're trying to say, we can't say this, we can't do that, we can't mention race. Texas Education Agency Code says that we still have to be able to close gaps. It's literally written in the Texas law that we have to close gaps with black and brown students relative to white peers. They can do everything that they want to say that we can't talk about this, this, and that, but the outcomes are the things that we have to hold ourselves accountable to. So if we're going to be a district doing our legal job in the state of Texas to make sure every single demographic is able to grow and excel and succeed, we're going to have strategies that empower us to do that. And if we're going to have strategies that empower us to do that, that means things like the African American read-in, or focusing on strategies very similar to like our Learning Center strategy that was really launched and led and pioneered by Dr. Shirley Ison Newsom. Focusing on making sure that those ACE strategies that we're reconstituting right now are still paying attention to making sure Black and Latino kids specifically are growing. We have to hold ourselves accountable to that data and that disaggregated information. So in a world where DEI is telling, this anti-DEI swing is telling us that we can't do, can't be, can't do whatever, we'll change the language. But at the end of the day, the scoreboard is the thing that will direct our strategies and our tactics. And we have to be empowered to do things that the law tells us that we as a school district are held responsible to do.
On that same thread with DEI, MWBE is actually being attacked as well, and the hub specifications for historically underutilized businesses. We currently have millions of dollars put into DISD schools to get them built based on the bonds that we've had. And those include those MWBE, because DISD does have an MWBE policy. What are you going to do to ensure that those small businesses, those trade partners and construction companies locally that are already doing the work, fixing Atwell, fixing all these other schools, can complete that work and we still have a made MWBE and HUB policy with DISD supported staff?
That's a fantastic question. It's something I'm very passionate about myself. Having been in the business sector, being an entrepreneur myself, it's important to make sure that we maintain what MWBE has gained us, right? And it's going to be more difficult in this climate. That's just a fact. But I also think that we can get creative. What are the allegories? What are the stand-ins for MWBE that could be important? Can we look at who has done work with the district before, and in particular, has done work in these communities? I think it's important for us to, one, until we have somebody tell us that we can't do our MWBE, we don't need to be going in and changing it, trying to find ways that we can ensure that historically and underrepresented entrepreneurs get the opportunity to continue to be a part of this. I think we need to embrace our legal minds to not just play defense, but offense. What are the ways that we can create opportunities for people who would have typically fallen in these categories to still get the opportunities, and to make sure that we're forcing partnerships or requiring partnerships? We still have subs that are going to be required, and do so in a way that we are still flagging the most important element, which is ensuring that diverse representation gets to participate in building the infrastructure of our schools, which we know is so critical.
So for this question, I don't think there's a problem in the policy. The policy dictates that we should have diverse representation in our contractors and the people who are receiving bond funds to perform, if it's new construction, remodeling, all the things. The policy is in place. The implementation is faulty. So I will begin with looking at where these contracts were awarded. So let's start with procurement. How are you evaluating? What is the process for the contracts to be awarded? Are you actually going through the actual procurement steps to identify who's qualified to do the work and what the market is saying? And then understanding the demographics on what businesses are able, what diverse businesses are able to perform these work in this capacity. And then, are you awarding the right people the contract? And when you do award the contract, are you following the money to see if the work was done, if it was done correctly, if it's sustainable? Because I've been at the forefront of infrastructure changes and building changes, and we selected contractors, and we did not get the work that was promised within that, and we are still fighting today for those changes to be completed, not just in one school, but in many schools. And we're asking for accountability, and I think that that is how you make sure that the policy is implemented correctly.
Good evening. I'm a father of small children, and I hear a lot about the education and the buildings and things of that nature. But I went to my son's school to have lunch with him, and in food service, what would you all do to change the plates and the spoons, because they were horrific, and I had to start sending lunch with them every day because I didn't agree with them eating off it. And so, we don't address this enough in our community. So what I'm asking is, what will you all do to help schools get better utensils for the children to eat off? Not even that, but the things they're cooking. I saw some of the sheet pans, and I'm like, man, no, sir, we ain't gonna do that no more. And so as the trustee, how would you help food service get better material to serve our kids the food, as well as, my wife works at food services, she's paid horrible as well. And, what would you do about that?
So first off, kudos for being an engaged parent and going to eat lunch with your child. That is the start. But in a very practical sense, the role of a trustee utensils, but I say we, and I use we over me, but I've advocated for food just to be good food. We've had kids who had molded food. There's no reason for that. So making sure again that those proper budget allocations are attributed to food services. And if it's not something that can be sustained on campus, outsourcing it. You have some schools who receive food that is cooked and prepared by a different agency, not necessarily, they're contracted under DISD, but not actually on campus. So just thinking creatively to make sure that our kids are receiving nutritious meals, healthy meals, and safe meals, because nobody is safe eating mold or you are cooking with old or faulty things. Just the basics, y'all. We've got to get back to the basics. And then we have to equip our schools. Roosevelt actually has a culinary school. There are other schools that have culinary. So you want to make sure that we're teaching our kids, and then we're able to use our own campuses and buildings for those type of services.
I agree. Credit to you, brother, on stepping in and paying attention to the details, right? My own kids have come home and were like, I didn't want to eat that today. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge because, we have a lot of schools, over 200 schools. And we have a lot of food service employees who are working very hard to make sure that they're bringing their best effort to our schools on behalf of our kids. And oftentimes, some of the people who said the nicest, most kind thing to me as a student myself and have looked after our kids are the people who work in food service. And so we always make sure that we honor them and we take care of them. And they need the resources to do their best and to show up as best as humanly possible for our young people. And I agree. It takes us as trustees being accountable to one, hearing from our parents and our families to make sure that we know what's happening and how accurate it is to the day. The other thing that I think is also very important is that it really does come down to a safety question. If we are making food and if we're producing food that our young people need, because for many of our children, this will be the only meal that they get of the day. Summer is one of the hardest times for food security for the simple fact that kids don't come to school regularly. But if we put out food that is not safe for the children, then that's a problem as well. And so I want to make sure that I'm an open pathway in order for families and parents who see something, say something. I want to be an ear for that. And we'll raise it with the administration, we'll address it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about making sure that we resource those families, resource our food service professionals to make sure that they have the tools that they need in order to do what they all know they want to do as well. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you all so much for your questions. We will go into our closing statements. You will have 2 minutes for your closing statements as well. And I'm going to start with ladies first again. This is a personal point of privilege.
Absolutely. You got it.
Well, thank you guys for your attention and your time today and your engagement. Again, I'm Natasha Gerald. I hope to have your support as the future D5 trustee. Again, my track record speaks for advocating for our kids and our youth, creating practical and sustainable solutions to the issues. This is the opportunity to actually see some change. We talk and talk and talk and talk. However, we're often wondering, well, what is happening? We provided this resource, or we told this person who was supposed to take the action. We're the ones to take the action. I am that bold voice for change. I will fight tirelessly as I have been, and together. And I think that that is key. This is not one person, one entity, one school. We are one community, and our kids are ours. I am fighting for our kids and for our community. And this is, again, purpose-driven, not political gain. I've been doing this work, no pay, no contracts with the district, just a labor of love and out of necessity. We cannot afford to continue to fail our kids. So I'm asking for your support so we can again undergird our kids and make sure that they are equipped to thrive in the next level. Thank you.
Started off talking about purpose, and I'm going to end with it as well. I talked about my purpose, my mission, so people could understand where I'm coming from. But we also said that every person who was born on this planet has a purpose. Every single one of them. Every single one of them has value. Every single human being is eminently, infinitely valuable. And there's no better institution to ensure that those young people get a chance to live that full value than through our education system. In Dallas ISD, we're on a path, we're on a trajectory, but there's so much more work for us to do. I'm running to be a trustee to represent District 5, but more importantly, to represent Dallas ISD as a whole, because I know that education is the thing that can be a springboard to somebody's ability to live their best, truest, most authentic self. We're in special times right now, y'all. We have seen in 45 days a more pronounced eroding of everything that people fought, bled, and died for decades happen. And it's up to us to stand in the gap. And I think the bulwark, I think the place where we come and collect our energy and our efforts is the school. It's the school system. And it's surrounding and wrapping ourselves around these young people. I think that's where we can find the collectivism. I think that's where we can peel ourselves away from the red, blue, and we can get down to what really matters in this society. And as a trustee, I want to be a voice for our school district. I want to be a voice for our community. And at the end of the day, I want to be a voice for you. I'm Byron Sanders. I'm running for District 5, and I'm so grateful that you all came out to spend your time with us here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. Thank you all so much for attending Monday Night Politics. You can find this recording on the Dallas Examiner Facebook page, on the YouTube page. I do have one announcement before you guys step out. The Dallas Examiner, in partnership with Vision Team, is hosting the Great Conversation this Saturday, March 29th at the Golf Club of Dallas. This Great Conversation is celebrating extraordinary women making a difference. You can register and purchase your tickets to attend that event online on the Dallas Examiner's Facebook page or web page, on the web page. Thank you all again so much for your commitment to our children and seeing the DISD put the right people in place. I think you guys both did a wonderful job. Thank you again so much for being here tonight. Thank you for attending Monday Night Politics. Have a good evening.